Good evening, y'all. Good evening, y'all. Happy Saturday evening. Wonder what everybody's doing tonight. I figured it'd be a good time to stream. I kind of missed a few days this week. I've been running around a lot, but we get the previews tonight, and the recaps tomorrow. All right, but first let's talk about the Chargers game on Thursday, and then we can get to the recaps. I mean to the previews. All right, let's pull up the numbers. 10 to 37, 12 first downs from the Vikings, 29 for the Chargers, 130 passing yards, 212 for the Chargers, 34 rushing yards for the Vikings, 207 for the Chargers. Each has a turnover. Um, it looks like the Chargers are finally getting back on track. Um, I wouldn't read too much into it. The Vikings, they're a good, well-rounded team, but they're still trying to figure out who their quarterback is. I say stick with Wentz the rest of the year. They have a banged up line. Their line is not doing well. I don't think J.J. McCarthy can do any better with that type of offensive line. Um, and now the question remains: do you think they made a good chance letting go of Sam Darnold? Because him and the Seahawks are rolling. They're doing really well. So who knows how the season's going to play out for the Vikings. Um, as I always said, I'm not sold on Darnold because we've seen what he's done throughout the years. Um, it's kind of looking like Minnesota 2.0 all over again in Seattle. But I don't want to, you know, jinx him or anything. But I think they did right by looking for another quarterback because they want to win now. They don't want to be regular season successes. Um, are they going to do it with Wentz or McCarthy? That's the issue. I don't think they'll do that either. So they're just, a lot of NFL teams are just stuck in limbo because they don't have their quarterback. Yes, coaching matters, but look at Belichick and Brady. Look at, you know, the teams that have the top tier quarterbacks. It doesn't really, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter who the coach is, but it kind of matters more who the quarterback is than who the coach is. Um, with the exception of probably Reed and Mahomes, they're both equally important, and we won't really know how good Mahomes will do once Reed decides to retire. He's looks like he's on the end of his career too, but a lot of teams are looking for their Josh Allen, for their Patrick Mahomes, for their Joe Burrow, and it's hard. It's really hard to find it. Some crown them early. They give these players big paydays, and then it doesn't work out. But it's always the top five that are always in the mix, the Lamar Jacksons. And the Chargers feel like they got their guy when Herbert. I think he buckles under the pressure too, but he came up big this game. Um, he let me see his stats. He 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception, only got sacked twice. Rating 122. Meanwhile, Wentz 144, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 67 rating, but he was getting hit a lot. So he got sacked 5 times. So um, yeah, all these teams are looking for their quarterback. And the Chargers feel like they got it. But back to Minnesota, we don't know what the future holds for them because everything is so inconsistent. I don't know if Carson or McCarthy can really take these teams to the playoffs. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So there's the recap on that. Now let's do some matchups. All right. Hold on. All right. Where are we going? We got the Bengals versus the Jets. Okay. Um, we already know the Jets are gonna lose. I mean, they're 0-7. Um, the Bengals just found a resurgence with Mr. Flacco. They had a crazy win, uh, and I just think Sauce Gardner's out with injury. He's probably like their best player. They're trying to figure out. if Justin Fields would be benched or not. Aaron Glenn hasn't committed completely to benching him, but I think they'll bench him. The Jets are just a mess, and I just don't think that they're gonna win this game. They might. Hmm. Should I say they might go winless? Do you think that's going to be the question? Not if they win this game. The question is going to be, are they going to be winless? Um, I don't know. It's just a mess. So, obviously, easy win for the Bengals. Uh, these numbers don't matter as far as the Bengals are concerned because most of these were accumulated with Burrow out. Now you got Flacco throwing to Chase and Higgins and just running up the scoreboard. They're gonna have a field day this game. I mean, it's any given Sunday, but they're gonna have a field day. So easy win for the Bengals. Um, easy win. Um, the Bills versus the Panthers. The 4-3 Panthers. What? I mean, this is unbelievable. Best record at home. Um, Obviously points per game. Buffalo's in the top five. 27.8 as the Panthers. 20.7. That's not bad. Um, Yards per game. 378 for the Bills. 326 for the Panthers. Time of possession. Both at the top three. Total defensive sacks. They're pretty close to that too. Could this be a good game? What will we say if the Panthers win this game? Could we actually look at them as a playoff contender now? I just think they're on a good run. I still think they got a lot of growing to do. But you're 4-3 in the National Football League, so you deserve some respect. So if they beat the Bills, man, they're going to the playoffs. That's all I'm saying. But I think Josh Allen and company they'll handle their business. They'll take care of it. Um, the Panthers are just too young, and Allen is like literally in his prime right now. The issue with the Bills that's always been is their defense. Their defense is terrible, and it's always been their Achilles heel. But we're not talking about them facing the Chiefs or other big boys in the AFC. We're talking about them facing the Panthers, which who we can say is a good team now. I wouldn't have said this 3 weeks ago, but the Panthers are a good team, but they're not ready for the Bills, in my opinion. Um, any given Sunday, but I think the Bills got this pretty easily. So, all right, who do we got next? Okay, we got the Patriots versus the Browns. This is an interesting matchup. Um, well, first and foremost, I'm gonna give it to the Pats. I think the Pats are playoff contenders in a crowded AFC. Um, their quarterback is good. They got Stephon Diggs. They're just a solid team. Eighth in points per game, 14th in yards per game, 10th in defensive sacks, 11th in defensive interceptions. This is a very good, well-rounded team, and I feel like I think they're going to beat the Browns, but can they handle the Browns' pass rush? I know the Browns' defense isn't ranked that high, but they still got Myles Garrett. They still got good edge rushers. Their secondary might not be that great, so I expect Stephon Diggs to kind of have a field day. But if Drake May gets rattled a lot, we'll see how he performs. Because Cleveland's D, when they show up, they can really be a problem. And Myles Garrett does what he does. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I'm gonna have to give this one to the Pats. But this might be a closer game than you think, regardless of who they have at quarterback. Obviously, we know that situation. I don't even want to keep beating a dead horse. They need to push Shador in there. But whatever. The Browns, they're gonna do whatever they got to do to self-destruct. But it doesn't matter who the QB is. The Pats are just overall a better team, and not an easy win, but I think they take this one. So yeah. All right. Bucks versus Saints. Okay, so I know Mayfield is a little unhappy with the last loss. Let me see. I still think he's an MVP candidate. Um, I just feel like, let me see, the Saints. You know, this is a perfect team for the Bucks to sharpen their tools with. Um, you know, they're I think what's his name? Their rookie receiver. He might be limited to injury. Let me pull up the stats real quick before I start rambling. Um, one moment, y'all. This is live, so um, let's see. And yeah, they're trying to bounce back from their loss against the Lions. The Lions made, you know, I'm gonna say kind of easy work, kind of exposed them a little bit. Um, but Ibuka, let me see if he's in the game. Let me see. Well, Godwin's out for sure. Hagrid's out for sure. Oh, Ibuka's active, full participation. So regardless, you know the Bucks are gonna make light work of the Saints. So I mean, you know Rattler's having his day, but he threw 3 picks last week. You know, he's still a good QB. I think he can be entertaining, but they're not gonna win this game either. So I'm gonna have to give this one to the Bucks. And Mayfield will definitely be on his little revenge tour after losing to the Lions because really now the question comes from the Bucks. They're a good team, but are they good enough to beat the top teams? That's the question. So they've had some great success early in the year, but they didn't really look that great against the Lions. So you know it'll be interesting to keep an eye on them and see how they perform later on. But I still think Baker Mayfield should be mentioned in the MVP conversation, 100%. All right, Dallas versus Denver. I know you guys saw what happened to my Commanders last week by the Cowboys, courtesy of the Cowboys. Unfortunately, Jaden Daniels got injured that game and he's out, but it's not about the Commanders. We got the Cowboys versus the Broncos. I'll get to the Commanders later. So, I mean, this. I feel like this might be the game to watch this year. Um, this is an excellent matchup. You got Dallas just playing lights out football, especially on offense. And we've seen last week when their defense does decide to show up, this is a championship team. Obviously, Dallas and championships don't sound right since the 90s. They've had wonderful teams that's done well all year and then tank at the end. But right now, the way they looked against the Commanders, hitting on all cylinders. Yes, the Commanders were injured, but Dallas has kind of been doing this all year. And Dak is actually at the forefront of the MVP conversation. So, I mean, but can he fare against Denver's defense? They're first in total sacks, 25th in interceptions, but they give a lot of pressure and their defense is serious. I don't think Dak does well under pressure, but now he's got CeeDee Lambs and Pickens to throw to. So that's easy money. So if this is going to be a really good game, I feel like this will be the best game of the week. Especially after the game Denver had, the way they made a comeback. I know there's a little controversy between Russ and Peyton, you know, whatever. But Denver is a solid team. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But who should I give this to? Since I don't like the Cowboys, I'm going to give it to Denver. But this is the game to watch this week. So, um, okay. All right, Dolphins, Falcons. I believe Kirk Cousins is going to get the start. Doesn't matter. Dolphins are. Could this be the game where they make an example? 2 through 3 picks last week. Um, I just don't see anything happening here. I think the Falcons beat them easily. The Falcons have a crazy run game. So Dolphins are 1-6. Tua is not playing well. McDaniels is on his way out. The Dolphins are just really bad. So these numbers don't even matter. I mean, but look, 25th to the 28th points per game. How Falcons are below Dolphins in points per game is mind-boggling. But hey, it is what it is. Um, yards per game, that makes more sense. the disparity. 7th for the Falcons, 27th for the Dolphins. Um, Defensive sacks, pretty similar. Defensive interceptions, ninth for the Falcons. Ooh, yeah, it's pretty low for the Dolphins, but it's not even about the defense. It's about, as far as the Dolphins, even if they have a decent defense, their offense is so bad, their coaching is so bad right now that it doesn't even matter. I'm trying to see what their schedule is the rest of the year, to see if they're going to get any wins. And hey, at least we know they got more wins than the Jets, so they're in the same division. So but you got New England, Buffalo, pretty much. They're going to dominate that division this year, so it doesn't even matter. But for this game, I'm gonna have to give it to the Falcons. Um, so all right. Oh, this is gonna be a good one too, because the Eagles are still ironing their kinks out. They're champions. They're a solid team. They're proven winners. They can face adversity, as we've seen. But the Giants are so exciting. You know, um, that fourth quarter collapse might have exposed them a little bit. They gave up 33 points to Denver. Um, that was the game of the week last week, 100%. But that fourth quarter collapse, I mean, I'm not going to say expose them because nobody thought the Giants would be playoff contenders, but we kind of upped our expectations after these past few games, especially with Jackson Dart and the way Cam Scadaboo's playing. We kind of looked for them to do a little bit better. And this is going to be a close one. Maybe they could break out again, with the Eagles still trying to figure it out because it's weird, right? The Eagles are, what's their record? 5-2, top of their division, easy peasy. But they have so much internal stuff going on, and AJ Brown is out. We know Hurts isn't going to get you the game he got last week, 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, yada yada yada, or multiple touchdowns. He's not going to do that every week. Now with Brown out, they have got to get their running back in the game. Saquon Barkley has to get it going. He has had a quiet year. So if the Eagles want to stop Dart and Scadaboo's momentum, they got to get the ground game going, and everything else will fall in place. But it'll be interesting to see how the Giants defense responds after giving up 33 points last week. But for this one, as much as I love Dart and Scadaboo, I'm going to have to give this one to the Eagles. They're just a more experienced team, and it's going to be a good game to watch, though. Very entertaining. All right, Green Bay versus Pittsburgh. Ooh, Aaron Rodgers comes back to his old stomping grounds. Um, these records are pretty much even. 4-1-1 for Green Bay, 4-2 for the Steelers. The Steelers' defense hasn't really showed up. They are getting sacks, but they still aren't the Steelers' defense that we're used to seeing. And that's been their biggest factor that's kept them a playoff team consistently. So if their defense doesn't step up this year, it'll be weird to see them rely on Aaron Rodgers to get them to the playoffs at this stage in his career. So Aaron Rodgers is a good quarterback, but the notion was, hey, we got a complete team. Now let's put Aaron Rodgers in there just to do good enough at 80% or whatever percent he is for us to get over the hump while our defense carries us. That's what we kind of expected, but now it's looking like they're really relying on Rodgers and Metcalf. So, and as I said in the beginning of the year, I think Green Bay's the most complete team, but they haven't really been convincing this year either. They're still moving along. They got good record. This is going to be a really close game. Aside from the Denver game, I think this might be one of the games of the week too. So, um, who would I go? I'm gonna have to give it to the Packers. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Packers. But this is a close one because you get Rodgers and Tomlin, too much experience. Maybe not together, but yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to the Packers. Micah's gonna give them a lot of headaches. So, and Jordan Loves will definitely show up. So, yeah, I have to give it to the Packers. It's going to be a close one, though. This is another one of those games to watch. Um, Lamar Jackson is out again, so not much to see here. I'm not going to say easy win for the Bears, but I'm sure they're, you know, I feel like it'll be an easy win. I didn't want to say it. Poor Ravens, man. Poor Ravens. Um, ever since Lamar left, you really realize how valuable he is. Um, because Derrick Henry is completely no showing so far. And I don't think he's going to carry them against Chicago, who is finding their rhythm. Um, the Bears are 4-2. I just think that, unfortunately for the Ravens, they're not going to win this game. So the question always remains: is Lamar going to come back and give them a push to make it to the playoffs now? Because if they lose this game, that's it. They're 1-6. They're not going to win that many games in a row. How many weeks is left? Um, this is week 8. They'll have only 8 more games left, fighting in a crowded AFC. Um, I don't know if they lose this one, they might be out for good. So, um, I mean, you know, Pittsburgh is at the top of the division, though. I mean, Cincinnati, they lost their. Man, this is an ugly division. I mean, if somehow the Ravens turn it around and the Bengals and the Browns keep losing, they could probably sneak in the wild card if Lamar comes back and plays Superman football, which he usually does. But yeah, man, gotta hang it up for the Ravens. I don't think they're winning this game. So if they do, it'll be like pure desperation and like a Chicago Bears collapse. But um, I'm gonna have to give it to the Bears. So you know, poor Ravens though, man, poor Ravens. So all right, now we got San Fran versus the Texans. Brock Purdy still out, um, and Houston is looking a little hungry. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder. This could be an interesting matchup. Um, I would still give it to the 49ers just because they're just a better overall team. But this will be a close game because Houston is out for blood. They pretty much don't think they're going to make it to the playoffs. And now they can just play without much to lose. But 2-4 is kind of a disappointing start. They had a lot of big expectations for CJ Stroud. Not that he's playing too bad, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, but I don't know. I don't know. You know, this one's going to San Fran. Tennessee versus Indianapolis. Another lopsided game, I expect. Indy's at the top of their division. Um, I don't know what to do with the Titans. 2 weeks in a row, Cam Ward is throwing the ball, slipping, and just looking goofy. The coaching staff's a joke. Everything's a mess there. So we don't have to say too much about them, but easy money for the Colts. And along with Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones is the front runner for the MVP. Him and Dak are playing excellent football right now. And the running backs too. Um, Jonathan Taylor's doing excellent. So he could be in the MVP mix. But they always give it to the quarterback. So but yeah, Indy wins this one easily, unless Tennessee just has some weird moment. It's any given Sunday. It could be any given Sunday moment, but easy win for the Colts. So so we already talked about the Vikings and the Chargers. Now let's talk about. Uh, Let me fix this screen. Y'all looking at my secrets. I mean, it doesn't even matter at this point. Jaden Daniels is out. Chiefs are playing their best football. I think they're the best team in the league. I have no faith in Mariota. He's a good backup. He can win some games, but I don't like what he did last week. That hero ball first play in the game, he throws off his back foot and just throws it up in the air for a pick six. Like, what are you doing, Mariota? Stop it. Just it's just a three-headed monster. Spagnola, Mahomes, Andy Reid. Too much for the Commanders. We could probably have a chance because Jaden Daniels lifts up the whole team, but we have way too many injuries. Our running game, our line, everything. It's just, and of course, our quarterback. So I hate to say it, easy win for the Chiefs. They are the best team in the league right now, and it just sucks that they're facing us after we had a few bad losses and our quarterback is hurt. It just sucks. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give this one to the Chiefs. And yeah, I think that's all the recaps. I think that's everybody. So thank you guys for tuning in on a Saturday night. Um, it is what it is. Go Commanders. We could still probably sneak in, but even though the NFC East is crowded, but as far as the Chiefs go, they're making another Super Bowl run, 100%. And unless you got that furious front four of the Eagles facing them, the way they had Patrick Mahomes running for his life last year, I don't see anybody stopping the Chiefs at all. So keep a hold of this stream. I called it. I always call it because I just think with what I call a three-headed monster, they just can't. They're always going to be in the mix as long as those guys are around. Um, so now they got their whole team set up. Their offense is great. Their defense is doing what it's supposed to do. They're the best in the league. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, thank y'all for joining me on a Saturday night. That was my quick previews. I'll see you guys tomorrow night for the recaps of the Sunday games. Y'all have a good weekend. Be safe, and I'll catch up with y'all later.